to me exposes exactly how racist the progressives are. Not against whites, but against other blacks. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video.
Half hour, The Factor Uncensored. There's a new push from progressive activists out there, and that means Democrats, to get more Republicans behind gun control. The strategy: buy every black man an AR-15. This is part of the so-called Scare the Racist Straight initiative. Could this work, or would this be taking things too far? Joining us to talk about it, Texas State Representative.
As an extremely pro-Second Amendment guy, I say, go ahead. Seriously, go ahead. Just the other day, I was saying that police departments in Chicago needed to empty out the stock room and they needed to give the people who live in the neighborhood stock weapons. Of course, I do want these people trained, of course, and I do want these people to be able to defend themselves. However, these people really and truly think that pro-Second Amendment people, or Whitey, as they'll say, is against this. But let's talk about it anyways. This right here, to me, exposes the god-awful thinking or the low IQ thinking of people on the progressive side of the aisle. So they think that giving people of color, giving black people just AR-15s, just to be giving them AR-15s is going to bother white folks. No, if anything, we'd actually be happy about that because it would actually increase the size of a possible would-be militia, and also to go on top of that, it would actually give people an incentive to actually practice their Second Amendment rights and also get into gun safety so that way people can know that not shoot friendlies. This also kind of sort of exposes the mindset of progressives that they are the ones who actually want to destroy America, which, by the way, I've been saying for a while. They won't never join the military because, quite frankly, they're more interested in destroying America and burning it down than burning other nations. But once again, though, here we are going to let this guy that we're about to talk about absolutely cook and, of course, burn the house down while he's trying to cook because these people obviously cannot cook. But I do think we do need to have a conversation about this, and I do think that people need to understand that there is this thing called gun safety, which quite frankly should be common sense. And I'm pretty sure that the vast majority of people out there, once they get a firearm, do in fact go to the range and do in fact actually understand gun safety, and they understand the basic rules. Keep your finger straight off the trigger, of course, until you intend to shoot. Treat every weapon as if to say it was loaded. And also to go on top of that, never point a weapon at anything you not intend to shoot. I'm pretty sure that these people will understand basic gun safety at some point in time. But there is also this one guy that was around at one time who had this group called In Fact, named Grandmaster Jay, who literally went out of his way to give people false information about firearms. Either way, though, we're going to have a conversation about this. Now, before we get started, I want to go ahead and let you guys know something really quick. Anti-Second Amendment Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. The Second Amendment obviously came into play recently with her, as a would-be attacker on her home was put down by one of her security guards, proving once again why it is that guns are in fact necessary. Also, one more thing needs to be said and needs to be established before we go further. This is not a Second Amendment channel. There are other channels that actually dive into this issue. I'm more of a common sense, looking at the issues of the day, culture war type channel. And of course, most of it revolves around media criticism, but also I criticize the thinking that people have out there when they think that just Whitey just wants to run America and all that type of stuff there. And of course, as you guys are about to see, we've got people out here who would just prefer to end Whitey. But then again, though, this is kind of sort of the world that we live in, the clown world that we live in. So let's get started. So you got a congressman, you got a gun store owner, and you've got another guy who are about to have this conversation with an anchor. And of course, this conversation does have three different directions, but at the end of the day, two of the three different directions that we go to seem to be a lot more rational and a lot more with common sense. But let's go ahead and dive in.
Rigo, the owner of HTX Tactical, a gun store, and Darius Sanders of Sanders Tactical Performance. Glad to have you here all on The Factor Uncensored. So first of all, Representative Reynolds, when you hear this plan, what are your thoughts about it?
Well, Isaiah, here's where we are. Desperate times call for desperate measures. We saw 19 kids killed and slaughtered in Uvalde because a person got a hold of an AR-15. We have seen hopes and prayers from the MAGA extremists, but no common sense gun reforms, no raising the age to purchase an assault rifle from 18 to 21. You can't buy cigarettes, you can't buy alcohol, but you can buy AK. So I guarantee you, if Junebug and Tyrone, these thugs, get their hands on these AR assault rifles, then that may pause them to say, well, you know what? Maybe we do need to get some guns control reform, because we don't want these thugs, we don't want these ends to be carrying these assault rifles. So maybe this will work, because nothing else has worked thus far.
I don't feel
Okay, lots of BS, lots of lies there. Number one, it is not easier to buy a firearm than it is to buy liquor. When you buy a firearm, you've got to go to a store, you've got to get an FFL form, you got to fill that thing out, which, by the way, is your background check. That's got to go through NICS, also known as NICS, the ATF, and they've got to actually approve the purchase. Sometimes these purchases get delayed. Sometimes these purchases get rejected outright. I used to sell guns, so therefore I would know. Uvalde, a lot of BS there too, which of course, there was also a lot of crap that circled around that situation, myself included, misreported on. And of course, I'll never forget that day that I talked about the shooter, and a false narrative immediately came out and remained in the news for a day, and then all of a sudden things changed the following day. Uvalde could have been prevented if there had actually been armed personnel at the school. And then to go on top of that, we also found out later on that the cops really and truly went out of their way to take their sweet-ass time to actually find the shooter. Ultimately, at the end of the day, a guy, a Border Patrol guard who was off duty, who was in a barbershop not far away from the school itself, actually went in there and was the one who put the guy down. Like I said, you know, bad guys with guns, you're going to need guns to put them down. But still, though, at the same time, though, when somebody says that Junebug and Tyrone, or somebody is going after Junebug, that right there being the guy's way. By the way, I'm from the South, and I still have no idea what the hell a damn Junebug is. All right, just figure I'd point that out before we go any further. But still, though, at the same time, though, to just believe that Whitey would be scared. If anything, what Whitey would probably do is say, hey, man, nice gun, dude. You want to go to the range? Hey, man, let's have a contest. Have a little bit of fun with this right here. Oh, man, you're a little bit, oh, man, you breathe the controls off. If anything, Whitey would just, you know, help Tyrone out, who's new to his firearm. That's what the hell would really happen. I'm just saying, because unlike delusional progressives, we live in the real world. This also includes black people who do too, because not every black person is progressive. This guy right here is just a bad representation, but let's continue.
thugs. That's a socially and criminally challenged.
Well, that's what they call them. That's the way they look at them.
All right, George, let's hear from you. Your thoughts on this.
So I think, first of all, let's get rid of the notion that Republicans are all racist, right? Hold on the topic. Let's move on from that, right?
True, absolutely.
So, with that being said, let's look at this. We're going back in time. If you know anything about gun control in the United States, you know that gun control was first enacted after the Civil War, after the slaves were freed, to control the freed slaves, to keep them from having guns. They were called black codes. How do you control people? Well, you take their arms away, right? Ida B. Wells said that the Winchester rifle deserves a prominent home, a prominent place in the home of every black family. Even Huey P. Newton, founder of the Black Panther Party, said that an unarmed person is a slave, or they're subject to slavery at any given time. So, do blacks need to be armed? Yeah, hell yeah, they do. I'm all for it. Now, this whole strategy that they're using, arming blacks to enact gun control, I think it's nonsense. Somewhat of an oxymoron. Why would you not want to protect yourself, especially if you're living in an urban community?
I'll talk about the thinking a little bit more so on the other side here, but I do want to focus on what was just said first by my man from the tactical store. The first form of gun control was freed slaves having guns taken away from them after the Civil War. So he's not wrong about that. Now, the part about slavery, of course, we've evolved and people still keep going on about this, but I don't think Mr. H&K Tactical is, I don't think he's really going on about that. I didn't perceive it as that. However, he is basically saying, look, man, you need to, I don't know, maybe practice your Second Amendment right just in case the crap hits the fan. Ask anybody who ever survived a dictatorship. I'm talking from Castro to Hitler to Stalin to... What they always tend to do is they always want to disarm people first. Now, progressives, they had this mindset where they're like, well, we're going to give all the black people guns, but we're going to take all the guns from the white people. Never going to work. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. There is a concern, though, that we will be talking about a little bit later on that a lot of people don't want to mention, but I will mention on this channel here, right here towards the end. But the point is this right here. I don't see a problem with giving people firearms to be able to protect themselves as long as there's somebody there to obviously teach them. And of course, these people can go online and fight themselves. There are some drawbacks, though, which we'll talk to a little bit later on the video. But for the most part, my man here was 100% correct. But let's keep going.
You know, there may be violence and whatnot going on. Why would you not want to protect yourself?
And Darius, let me ask you this, and I want Representative Reynolds to answer this as well. When we hear progressives saying, let's put a gun in the hands of every black person to scare the conservatives that are out there, is that also appealing to the lowest common denominator in society? And you have to question yourself about the progressives. They're thinking, well, oh, if you put a gun in a black man's hands, everyone is frightened.
True.
So do you have questions?
Great question. Great point. Of course, you know, I say great point. What I mean by that is obviously the guy who's asking the question is actually making a point with this question. You see, this is the problem with progressives thinking. This also should tell you that progressives are inherently the most racist of all people. They really and truly are. I just told you I did not mind black people being armed. I just told you I did not mind giving guns to black people, as long as, of course, they're taught to use these guns safely. Chances are they're not going to turn these guns on Whitey anyways. If anything, there's something else going on there. We'll talk about a little bit more because that's the actual fear of the situation. But the point is this right here. This right here is the kind of thinking that progressives have. So if we give all the black people guns, then everybody's going to be scared. Does that not sound somewhat racist to you? You're basically saying that black men are dangerous. Or you're saying black men are more dangerous than white men. I mean, it sounds to me like the thinking itself, I mean, it kind of sort of is appealing to the lowest common denominator there, and it's pretty daggone insulting. Just saying, but let's continue.
By the progressives.
I do. I don't like it. As a black man, I'll take a free gun. But at the same time,
I'll sell it to you.
my boy.
He said free. Free is free.
But I don't like the strategy. It's tough being a black man saying, hey, we're going to use your group.
Yeah, we're the pet project.
And I also, as an instructor, don't think everybody should have a gun because some people aren't responsible enough to be a gun owner. But with that being said, don't just take one group and say, hey, we're going to do this because of this. So I like George, I approve. I think people should have.
This is where it kind of goes the whole notion of black men, especially black men, black people as a whole, waking up and seeing exactly what's going on. They're not liking this progressive direction that the left is going into. Typically, black people tend to vote Democrat more often, mostly due to traditional reasons and, of course, socioeconomical reasons. Now, we could get into all the factors there, but of course, black people tend to be the poorest as far as in society. A lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of reasons why that is. However, the mainstream media, especially the liberal media, reminds them that you have to keep voting Democrat because, you know, screw Whitey, all that type of crap there, but yet you got to put an old white man in office who can't put two words together. And of course, they could very, very well say that you now are forced to vote for the black woman who's probably replacing him, even though the black woman is not really black. She's half Jamaican, half Indian. And of course, she bucked her way to the top, like Judge Joe Brown would say. But still, the point is this right here. This is the mindset and the thinking that these people have, the progressives have, when it comes to black people. However, there's one more part of this video that we got to talk about, and of course, it further exposes the thinking on the progressive side of the aisle. So here you go.
To protect themselves if they can show that they're responsible.
And Representative Reynolds, I want you to address that too. You have progressives who are Democrats appealing to the lowest common denominator to so-called get the job done, but they're using black people to do that. That's offensive.
It is offensive. I mean, the point is that they're trying to make it plain so that people will see that, first of all, there are disparities when it comes to the way that black men are profiled. Let's just be real about it. Black men are profiled as even unarmed black men, but imagine an armed black man with an assault rifle. That will send chills to some of these extreme conservatives that don't want any kind of gun reform measure.
The point is you try to keep black men, black people in fear where there shouldn't be no fear. Don't break the law, you won't have a problem. You're not a serious person there, Congressman. I'm just simply saying. Now, there was something that I do want to talk about, and it's not so much appealing to the lowest common denominator, as you guys obviously saw. As you guys can obviously see, progressives are extremely racist. Democrats as a whole, especially Democrats, white liberals, are very, very racist. But There is one more thing that we need to talk about. We need to talk about this thing, which is called gun safety. Now, really quick, I'm very, very pro Second Amendment. I've been saying it for a very long time. And of course, I don't just say it, I practice it. I don't tell you guys what I own. I don't tell you guys what I primarily take to the range with me. I don't tell you guys what it is I protect my home with. I may make a suggestion to you, and I may make a suggestion to you on what to buy. But then again, at the same time, though, there are also other primarily pro-2A channels that do exist on this platform for that very reason. Mr. Guns and Gear is very good. Guns and Gadgets is very good. Heavy Duty Country can be a little bit, but still pretty good. Coley on Noir is also very good, but also Coley on Noir's got this thing with USCCA that's recently been exposed being not the best thing in the world. And of course, there's also other people out there like, say, Grand Thumb, who's great. Hickok 45, I think, is the real OG here on this platform. But of course, the point is this right here. A lot of good gun channels out there. This is not one of them. I'm pro Second Amendment, but those guys there are a lot more locked in on that stuff. The thing is this right here, though. I do believe in gun safety, and I do believe in the primary rules of gun ownership, and I also do believe that you should have these guns in secure areas. Obviously, gun safety is something that needs to be practiced, and of course, you don't want to hear tell of an irresponsible gun owner leaving a gun out which a child got a hold of, which, by the way, that right there would be more the fault of the parent. I do believe in responsible gun ownership. Now, there's one more thing that does need to be said, and of course, it goes to the topic I was just mentioning. There are some people who would be scared that a certain community, if they had firearms, would not kill, say, Whitey, but then kill themselves off. Well, let me go ahead and address both points there, and there are two. Point number one, the stuff that you see on Twitter, the stuff that I can't show you here, because if I showed you here, the video would get flagged, and not only would it get flagged, it would probably get removed, and it would probably also get me removed for good off of YouTube. Even if I was to log in with a different account and create a different channel, they'd probably say, this guy's got to go, we can't let him back up here, he would be completely banned. And it's the stuff that gets shared by pro-2A accounts where you see certain men who happen to be of a certain race who commit all kinds of gun errors. I don't know, like putting a gun near a child's face or flagging people, pointing it everywhere, or possibly the gun going off because the guy who was screwing around with his weapon didn't exactly understand basic gun safety, didn't understand the basic rules. You know, treat every weapon as if to say it was loaded. Keep your finger straight and off the trigger, and don't never point a weapon at anything you're not intending to shoot. Stuff like that. They're just basic common sense stuff. And of course, there is a fear that a certain group would not be educated enough. I say to you that if you buy a firearm, make sure you have somebody to help you out, take you through the process, go to a range, and practice actual, honest-to-God, literal gun safety. But here is also the other point. Now, I did a video recently on Chicago and the crime in Chicago and how it was that you had 109 separate people get shot in Chicago, and yet there was right around 17, I think the number's been updated to 19 total dead. I said that these neighborhoods in Chicago, especially these black neighborhoods, I said that I think that the police departments, especially the police departments in those areas of precincts, should empty out their stock weapons and give these people weapons, mostly shotguns and pistols that they don't no longer use, to these people, to these neighborhoods, and should take these people through safety courses so that way they can defend themselves against would-be gang members and would-be gang bangers, would-be killers, stuff like that there, because it's getting that bad in the city of Chicago. I mean, they call it Chirac for a reason. The point is this right here. If you have people who are armed in an area or people who are armed in a neighborhood, and I also talked about community policing, chances are you have a deterrent against potential would-be attackers. Well, I'm not going to go in that area. These people are armed. Oh, I can't do that. Well, these people here may shoot me. It deters crime. And if they do end up going into an area they don't know about, thinking that it's not armed, it's very, very possible that somebody armed may finally get them. I'm not advocating you to, just simply saying. Those right there are the fears. Either way, though, I understand the fears and concerns people might have. But to that avail, I still say that go ahead and arm them. Go ahead. Arm them, teach them proper gun safety, and please do us all a favor and stop with this racist rhetoric nonsense. But then again, though, they are progressives. They are the infected. And trust me, at some point in time, they will ruin themselves. That right there being said, guys, please tell me what you think in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please share the video. Please sign off in the comment section. And I'll see you guys later.